Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. We are excited to be here with you on this Friday evening,
True.
and we got a lot of great things to talk about. A packed agenda, and look, we are 7 minutes behind schedule in true PPI fashion. So thanks
That's
for
all
hanging
my
out.
fault. That private jet finally landed. So
Yeah, sorry. You said helicopter. So which one is it? Is it jet or helicopter? Jet.
the jet lands on top of my helicopter.
Okay. I love it.
Just quick.
Well, thanks for tuning in. First off, in our Pixels segment, House of the Dragon season 2 for you Game of Thrones heads out there, you House of the Dragons fans. We're going to talk a bit about what to expect on the 16th of June, season 2. Wow, it's been a brutal week for the Star Wars universe. Will it be a brutal week for the Game of Thrones universe, or will it be a positive one? And then we'll talk a little bit about the Watchmen animated trailer release. Are you looking forward to this? We'll discuss that in the plastic segment for you toy fans. The Target It Geek Out kicked off today. So what dropped? Target exclusives, anything you're looking forward to picking up. And then in the ink segment, TMNT #1 from IDW, 300,000. What is going on? Flying off the shelves, boy. TMT still relevant and popular. Stay tuned. This is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. Wow. Kudos to Dr. Brantley once again.
What
for an
an
amazing
opening.
intro. And the high school orchestra we paid for that theme.
Also, copyright strike. No, just kidding. But we'll see.
No, not for high school music.
Not for high
That's
school
why we
music.
use them. Not for
It only
high school
costs us
music.
They would
$1,000
have to
bucks.
be on beat and in tune. So
For
I
any of
think we're
that.
good.
And why are you coming after us? It was out of tune, not on beat. It was actually worse for our video than your song.
Exactly.
I do have to say for Game of Thrones, man, that I was every Sunday evening when I heard that theme song, I got so excited. It was such a great time up until the last season, but before that, woof, those
We saw those bottles of water in those Starbucks cups.
well, beyond that, it was
That was the least of their worries.
I remember when that was on when I was working at Apple and people were watching in the break rooms, and it was like, you probably can't watch Game of Thrones in the break room.
No.
I don't think there is any time in the history of television that I recall anybody who hadn't read the books prior everyone's so shocked the Red Wedding episode.
Yeah.
I think I can't recall that it was such a gory surprise. Like if you didn't know, there was so much fan outrage and just like, oh my, like it started the trend. And before that, Ned Stark and all that stuff. But then you knew, like, okay, intentionally going to piss people off.
Oh yeah.
And that was such a great thing about Game of Thrones. It's like, it doesn't matter if you like the character or not. Like opposite of Walking Dead, which is like Daryl should have been killed off very early on, but it's like, oh, the fans like him. He still is alive. Game of Thrones is like, oh, we like him. Let's kill him off. So I can't recall another time in which television was so great. That era was so good, and I'm excited for season 2 of House of the Dragon. Different than Game of Thrones, but same universe. What are you all thinking? As you reflect on the Game of Thrones before we jump really into House of the Dragon, how did you enjoy it? Was that a big show for all of you? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Game of Thrones. I thought it was really good. I thought that there was a lot of potential there, and then they kind of just didn't touch on some stuff that they were talking about in prior seasons, which is fine. But yeah, man, I don't know. The last 2 seasons for me of Game of Thrones were kind of like I had to wait a really long time for something that just wasn't crazy enjoyable. But it was good. I mean, it was a staple. Like everyone talked about it. Everyone was watching it because it was like you just had to. So
I think they had a missed opportunity in that last season, especially where it felt like they were just going off of his Cliff Notes version of what the rest of the story is, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, you know what? Where it used to take a long time. Well, let's just say they got from here to here, and let's cut out everything that would have been in the middle.
yeah, yeah.
uh, but I did love it. It was sort of that good television that kept you always guessing who's gonna live, who's gonna die. I hate these characters. I hope they finally get their due. For some, it took 5 seasons, but eventually everyone in Game of Thrones gets what's coming to them.
Yeah, I'll pass that sentiment on. I didn't watch this show in the beginning, and I think Dr. Brentley basically, by the time I think I started watching it, it was close to maybe a season before the last season. And he's like, "Yeah, no, get through it." I thought the first season, especially the episodes like 1 and 3 and 4 were like really hard to get through. And he's like, "No, no, 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 keep going," and it starts picking up. And then by the time it made into season 2, it really started picking up, and I think a lot of the great storytelling started to come in along. Like everyone else, I did think that they rushed that last season, but it was nice to see conclusions done too, though, because I had never read any of the books, so it was kind of nice to say, well, all right, this chapter has ended, then what's the new chapter? So it's very interesting.
And
Yeah.
the dragon sequences were so good. And the battles, the epic scenes, the final. I think they did the battle really well. I know people complain that was like too dark and you couldn't make out what's going on. It's like you're overly complaining, man. Come on, like there was definitely some hits or misses with the series towards the tail end, but I think it lived up for most of the time, and it's unfortunate that it just left a sour taste in our mouths at the very end. And
Sure.
I'm wondering that's the reason why maybe George R. R. Martin's like, I'm not finishing this book. Like people,
I
like
think
I
so.
thought you called him Jar Jar Martin for a second, and
Well,
that seems like that last season
yes.
it was a little bit.
It was. It could have been Jar Jar. Who was your favorite character or two of the series of Game of Thrones? Was there someone you all liked?
For me, it was Jon Snow. I liked the story. He was one of those valiant guys. Even when he got kicked out of the kingdom and he stood the wall, he still accepted his role in every possible way. He was a favorite. Plus, also, I think Kid as an actor is a very good actor. That it's a shame he's not doing more, but it was always riveting. And I thought the whole thing would just stand in the wall and all the sequences behind that, and of course. And the other favorite actor was the ice dragon. Yes, because the House of Storm would have at least 2 ice dragons with it, man.
Man, I remember that scene so distinctly as they fetch the dragon out of the water with chains, and then he does the thing, the wave, and then the eyes open, and and it goes to black, and I'm like, holy shit, here we go. I'm with you. Dr. Brantley, favorite characters?
Arya. I loved her
Really?
story.
Okay.
Going from little kid learning how to sword fight to one of the deadliest assassins in Westeros. That was really cool. And the actress did a great job of showing all of that stuff. There was a ton of people that I absolutely hated on the show. Very few that were actually good, because I was like with Ned Stark at the beginning, I'm like, oh, there's got to be a way that they're gonna get him out of this, and then I was really shocked at the end of that episode, and I was like, wow. Well, okay, I guess nobody's safe. I can't predict anything that's gonna happen, and that is very true.
That was the biggest named actor of the show too. So you're
It
like, was this? Did they just pull a Steven Seagal on us? And you know, but turns out they didn't. It was just like, hey, yeah, we're not pulling any punches here. Be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddox, your favorite character. You look like a Jon Snow type of guy. I can see him at the wall with the broadsword, double-handed broadsword.
I grew to like Jon Snow. I think he's probably one of my favorites of it. But Jason Momoa's character is my favorite.
What was his name?
Let's see here.
I don't remember that. It was just my favorite character.
Pulled it up because
he was cool.
Oh, I liked Samwell as well.
Yes.
Yeah. But he was the king of the Dothraki, but I forget his name. But yeah, he did a really great job in that.
He did for the time that he was in that show, and that's actually a thing to revitalize his career, you know, and show people he had some different range. So I don't think without Game of Thrones, you know, he doesn't have the success that he has right now, and it's well deserved too. You know, despite what everybody says about Aquaman 2, Aquaman 1 was pretty damn good, you know. So
I go ahead, Chet.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if they redid Aquaman, they should still use Jason Momoa.
Khal Drogo.
There you go, Drogo.
Yeah, I know they won't use Jason Momoa. They'll find some white kid that's kind of like him with blonde hair, just to make him look like a comic version of.
It's James Gunn's version of it. So you know, it's all new characters, all new things that we'll have to get used to. But all right. So did anybody?
It might be one of Gunn's nephews or cousins to be Aquaman. So
you never know. It seems like that's what they're doing in Hollywood now, hiring somebody that you know.
Yeah, you know what character I really liked the story arc was Jaime Lannister.
Yeah,
and I know at the end of it, like he was a POS at the end. He couldn't let Cersei go, but like I liked his story arc.
At the end, he was all the way through until he lost his hand.
Yeah,
then people started to feel sorry for him, and he felt sorry for himself.
Yeah, but he got like there was like you started to like him more and more, and you felt like there was a redemption story, but at the end, he just couldn't resist going back to his sister and the POS that he was, and it caved in on him. And then the Hound was such a cool character in that story.
Yeah.
Like that was good. Well, House of the Dragon. What'd you think of season 1?
I thought that season 1 actually did I know prequels are kind of hard because usually, you know, we always look from the point of you do know history, and yet we do know how some of this stuff is already going to conclude itself, unfortunately. But yet I was also subtly shocked at how well they did dive in some of the histories, and I did not expect. If you haven't seen the show, there's a flip point in the show where it changes from something to something else. And I didn't expect that in this, that out of the blue. I thought the main situation was going to be that through the entire season, and we were going to get subsequent seasons like that. So I did kind of like the way they had moved that along in the story. They kind of like updated it real quick. The special effects I thought were fantastic on the show. If not leaving from the initial Game of Thrones TV series, it seemed like some of that stuff was up. The lore was cool to learn too. So there's a lot of things in it that I was just pleasantly shocked on. And I thought that the first episode 1, it is like mostly it's a political thriller where they're all kind of going through what's happening in the kingdoms and everything. That's hard to sit through the first season or the first episode. But if you make it past that, that's kind of like the only moment where they kind of leave that out, and then it starts moving into the kingdom, the situation, there's turbulence and everything else. So, you know, I think they could do something. Hopefully the second season, I think since we've already got this established, it will move quicker, you know, but it was just really episode 1. But the last episode of season 1 is probably one of the best last episodes, because crap I didn't expect to happen absolutely did. So I'm on pins and needles to see how season 2 starts, brother.
I didn't think the first episode was that bad, because I actually liked the beginning section, the first 5 episodes, better than the second half of the season, where they do a time jump of 10 years. And this is what was very confusing, is they replace some of the actors, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And then they made the father really old age makeup, so he looked like he was 80 years old, but then none of the other people that were around him were like aged up at all.
Yeah.
So it was a little difficult to understand, like, exactly. They said like only 10 years had passed, and then 6 years a little bit after that. But it was a little difficult to figure all that out. And I actually liked the younger actors better than the adult versions that they turned into for the second half. But they are just essentially setting up all these pieces so that it can all go to hell by the end of the story, And so it does take a while, but it is worth it when you get there. But it was a bit of a slog. I did just binge it recently, and it was a little tough to get through, but it was worth it by that last episode.
The younger cast did a really great job.
They did.
The two young actresses specifically did a really amazing job. And I really love you get to see in this series the difference in dragons.
Yes.
The large ones versus I found myself going online to Google like each. I'm like, oh my God, that dragon, like Daemon Targaryen's dragon is like, oh, and then this one's like a smaller dragon. And I love like you get to see like House Targaryen, their rule and their dragons, like, because you got some of that obviously in Game of Thrones, right? But there's only a couple of dragons left, as we know that one of them gets killed. But I loved it captured the essence of why they were so dominant and ruled in all the different dragons. And I thought it was good. Again, a bit slower to get into. I do think, while not necessary, it was helpful to know Game of Thrones lore and watch the series to kind of tie in some of those things. It's not necessary, but I felt like it was important. And it just happened to be that my wife and I like rewatched the whole Game of Thrones, and then House of the Dragons came. So we were really able to go, yeah. I think like if I just started and Game of Thrones was the last episode I watched when it went off the air, it would be kind of hard a little bit. And again, not needed, but it's kind of beneficial to stack those two.
Yeah,
I think names are very difficult in this one.
Yeah.
And it does help having the old Game of Thrones names, because a lot of those names are based on these people who are the first of their line.
Yes, exactly. Because what's the King Targaryen? Like, there's multiples of those, so we were getting confused. I forget what his name is. Rhaegar? Yes. So I'm like, wait, is that the one? No, that's not. That's his. And then I had to Google it. That's the third. Or it was just like, I mean, I get it. Like,
you're in too deep when you have to start Googling the king's name in a fictional thing. But
trust me. But the only time I spent as much time on freaking Google dissecting a movie was Interstellar. It was the series where I was like, wait a minute, let me go timelines. What the hell's going on? So I hear you on that.
Yeah, but I do give credit where credit's due. You're right about the whole thing with the dragons. Before that lore is kind of like thrown in, because there's not as many dragons in the Game of Thrones. But when you're in this age and everything, and then you really start understanding, like, oh no, this is like the way smaller dragon, and this one is like, this is the king of dragons that they got flown around, and like, just all the techniques and about them, having to learn how to master the dragon and how they foster there's a lot of lore into this, and I've got to give him credit. Is that I always thought that. Because Martin basically said that he does not like to write, and he more or less considered himself a television writer, and that's why it took him so long. I was like, well, how good are these books? Is it just based off of fandom and everything else like that? First of all, if you've ever seen a book, you're like, my God, I don't have the time to get through that.
It's like 2 Harry Potters. It's like, no, that's way too big.
Our boy Meeks.
Murder somebody.
What's going on, Meeks? It was the books are, but they take a lot of information from that and condense it in the episode without making it seem like it's an 800-page syllabus to something. So, credit where credit's due is like, because, like when I was watching, like, let's say Lord of the Rings, a lot of that lore and everything, if you're not a person that read the Lord of the Rings, it's hard to catch up on a lot of that stuff. If you go to Game of Thrones, it's like, no, they explain, no, this dragon's this, and this is the person. And, you're getting a more of a play-by-play as you watch the show, compared to, like, me sitting around asking Dr. Brantley, well, what the heck is these elves doing or something in the Lord of the Rings scenario? Because I just never read it. So, that's where I thought it was refreshing. So some great stuff from it, man. I'm really looking forward to this new season.
Yes,
Mr. Maddox, anything that you now?
How far did you actually get?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I turned it on and then I got distracted cleaning. So
I'd rather clean than watch these damn dragons.
Yeah, I'm gonna. But I'll tell you what. Like, I'm gonna. I'll watch it, and then I'll have my, because I didn't have a lot of time this week to like really watch any of that. But the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones turned me off, and I'm just like, I can't imagine these being any better. But I can
there's some moments you'll be surprised. It changes. I think that because there was a fresh set of eyes that went into House of the Dragon compared to the same set of eyes that really kind of went ahead and did, the Game of Thrones. I think that's where it's a little different. It's early, look, they've got, the first season is they're trying to get a second season. Yep. So they're bringing out all the stops and the storytelling and they're not just trying to crap it up. But by the time you make it to 7 or 8, most of the cast and the background people, they're tired. They're like, it's like another season. You start taking it for granted that you got it, Yeah, and I think that's what happened with Game of Thrones.
At the end of this season of House of Dragons, it's like all about to go down. So they lead you up to this point where it's like, war is about to break out. We're going to see dragon action, all sorts of stuff.
Well, I guarantee you one thing. I spent a lot of time with my man, the House of Maddox, and I can tell you something. He would love that last episode. Because that last episode, they bring it, brother. They bring it way better than the first series. They bring some stuff that last episode.
I should watch from the last.
Let me tell you something. If you can make it into the last episode and get into season 2, hey, get into it. Because sometimes maybe you're like, sometimes it takes a show with heavy amount of action and build up. And then you're like, okay, now I actually want to go back and see what I actually missed that entire season. If I had to drop what episode to watch that one, guarantee you'll be like, okay, now I'm ready to watch that season 2 because wow, that was some crap. And you'll go back. You'll want to see how it all started, man. So that's the good thing about the series is they really ended it on a really. If there's a cliffhanger that they did in television extremely well, that was one of them because you're waiting like, okay, it's all next season.
It's not a cheap cliffhanger. It is just, it's about to happen, and it's like, don't cut to black.
Yep.
I'm sharing my screen here so you can see. Okay. This is the different dragons.
Yeah. See.
Look at Vigar. Like, okay, all these MFs are going to battle. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Someone died. One of the dragons died though. Which one died? Remember one got
there was
somebody or
yeah.
I forget.
I don't think it wasn't one of the big dragons, I'll tell you that.
Which dragon died on House of Dragon? Let's see. Regal? I don't even know. I don't even see him on here.
Well, that's why he's not on there.
His dragon did not matter in the killing.
Yeah, my Elliot is not going to be very big on that list.
I'm sorry, that was Game of Thrones dragon that died. I don't know. But someone died. But that's what I'm excited about is these like dragon sequences, man. How have they not made these damn action figures? By the way, these like articulated dragons from House of the Dragon.
Didn't McFarlane have the rights to like the original Game of Thrones and made a couple of dragons, if I'm not mistaken? I don't know about this one, and I think also the reason why the Game of Thrones actually hasn't really gotten any action figures because it's a really tough show to kind of condense in some stuff. There's certain things that I don't know if they want to make
kids,
action
this
figures
looks
good.
cool, but you
Yeah.
can't watch any of this show.
They might have to be. And I think what Meek said that he thought one of the biggest dragons died. So
Yeah.
No, the big one is what took him out.
Yeah, Vagar killed
Vagar
Arax,
killed the radio star.
who's not on here. So that big lizard looking dragon up top killed.
Yeah, that's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Well, yep, there you go.
That's why they crossed off the list. They said we didn't even need to bring that one. Just cross it off.
Each castle sideways.
So what do you think? So season 2, I mean, again, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too.
I think I trust the franchise. I get the Game of Thrones didn't end the way we wanted to, but I think, yeah, exactly. It ripped the wings off. Remember that?
Yeah, there you go.
And
yep,
I was like, okay, this is what the series is going to be. All right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think we need to change of pace. We haven't had that type of era, that really cool Dragon Age type of series in some time. Lord of the Rings Prime thing doesn't do it for me, unfortunately. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'd be surprised if we watch it and we're disappointed. It can only go up from here after watching The Acolyte. So different universe, but same disappointment.
Yeah, they got all the backstory out of the way, so now they can just focus on what all the houses are going to do to each other.
Yeah, true.
And this was the best part of Game of Thrones. It was like about 2 through 6 were the best part of that show. Yeah,
and I love that you're going to see the downfall of House Targaryen because we kind of knew it in the Game of Thrones lore, but now we get to see it come to fruition. And why, when we pick up Game of Thrones episode 1, there's 2 remaining Targaryens left, so they must have all killed each other somehow. So
they all deserve it because they're terrible people. Everyone in the show is terrible.
And why are they sleeping with each other? What's going on in the game?
Let's not get into that one, man.
They're tired. They're tired.
Well, see, I was gonna say, is it the audience? Is it HBO? Or is it George R.R. Martin? That is so pervy. Because that is they put a lot of stuff in this show that's like, this would not fly anywhere else, even in feature-length movies today.
Yeah,
but it's okay here.
That's why it's HBO, man. They're always cutting the edge.
Because they're Max.
It's not TV. It's HBO.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Last thoughts on House of the Dragon.
Can't wait. Anticipating on Sunday, man.
Okay. Well, they better give us a dragon episode 1.
Better be several.
And I want to see somebody burned to death. Either a dragon or humans.
Can you imagine, though? They're not going to give you guys dragons, and you guys are going to be like, ugh.
There's no way they don't.
You're going directly into war, man. You got to see it. It's going to be dragons.
It's like sitting through 45 minutes of Godzilla movie and not seeing Godzilla.
Exactly.
Kind of like
it's like having expectations for Game of Thrones and too soon.
All right, so I guess we'll move on from that then.
We are going to move on to the Watchmen animated trailer. So, Watchmen again. This keeps it's a evolving circle of Watchmen movie, then the TV series. Did you all like the TV series in HBO? I actually really liked it. It was different.
I thought it was good
style, but it wasn't bad. And now we get an animated spin on things. Your thoughts on this? I mean, Watchmen is such historic comic book lore, and when it's always in the upper echelons of the best comic book graphic novel of all time. Is this going to turn out to be,
No, I mean, it looks like a straight up adaptation, shot for shot kind of a thing. Almost like, is it necessary? Because Zack Snyder kind of did it. But it looks very faithful, and apparently DC will not rest until Alan Moore is just turning in his grave, spinning over and over, going, "Stop it! Stop it!"
But they knew those rights were coming up. They were like, "What can we do to make sure we keep those rights from again? Hey, let's do Watchmen 1 and 2." You know, so.
But is it true, like page for page though? Do we
I
I
know
mean,
don't
that
it
know.
for
looks
sure?
like it.
It looks like
It looks pretty much
that's
like
one thing that Zack Snyder
exactly
did
the
is
panels.
he did 300 well, like
Mhm.
took the pages.
Mhm.
So if he replicates like staying true to the content, it could be really good. I just don't know because a lot of his projects and things have gone sideways and his different, but I don't know for sure. If that's the case, then hell yeah, it'll work.
Yeah, no, I think I think they're gonna be faithful because they're doing part 1, part 2. So they're gonna cover a bunch of stuff. Again, I think there was some things obviously, even with the Snyder cut of that movie, obviously couldn't get to. There's certain things he had to keep out. So I know a lot of the backstory that he did, he kind of rushed through some of the stuff compared to the books. And his ending was okay, but there's a little bit of a different ending in the graphic novel compared to the one that Snyder put on the screen. So I think there's going to be a lot more. Look, DC films, when it comes to animation, it's very rare that they've turned into something that I thought was crap. Normally, it's always made. It's actually a lot better than some of the live action stuff. It's consistent. So that gives me faith alone, voice acting wise and characters and everything else. They do great jobs, even when the stuff's not faithful. If you haven't seen like the Doom that went through Gotham, and I actually have those prestigious editions of that was, I was like, wow, I can't believe they brought this story to screen and they did it well. So, I know Mr. Maddox is a big DC animated fan. What do you think, brother?
I am. I'm trying to. I'm excited. I've been a long time fan of Watchmen. I I do think the movie was done pretty well, but I've always felt like why stop, because it's such an expansive universe. I know there was something there's like another animated film thing that happened in like 2007. I can't.
Oh yeah, they did that. The
Yeah.
I think, but I think it was more of a motion comic, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
was like,
it
I
was
think it
like
was.
yeah, it was basically just reading
Hmm.
like comics, and then it was like when they first started messing with
Hmm.
like motion graph. So it's not really like animated. So this is exciting. We'll see where it goes. I mean, it's I think that they'll be able to do more, and so I hope
Yes.
I hope it doesn't feel like it was written for only like a 2-part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, they have now, like 3 to 4 hours being in 2 parts, so they can pretty much get through this entire thing. In animation, you can tell a story much quicker than live action.
sure.
You just, get it with the visuals immediately. So I think they can get through real faithful adaptation in 2 parts.
I did like the way the artwork seemed very similar to Dave Gibbons' work. Like
Mhm.
that was the cool part, is that it looked like it was like, wow, sometimes they have their own animated style and it looks great, most of the stuff DC does, but this one seemed like it was very faithful to the panelization of the books and
Mhm.
the actual contrast of everything. So that's what's kind of cool too, is that look, sometimes it's great to have a couple of companion pieces. So maybe that might make people go back and revisit the Snyder version once they watch this. You never know what it could do.
Does anybody have first edition Watchmen
Oh heck no.
print?
Not me. Like I said,
That's
by the time I got into Watchmen, it was like through my older stage of
Yeah.
comics where it was like, oh yeah, the Watchmen. By then it's like, I'm getting like some, the 150th reprint that DC keeps trying to screw Mr. Moore over. Out.
See,
How many
I
graphic
did
novel
get the
editions are there?
absolute edition, which is the
Yeah.
giant version
Yes.
that is real thick
Mhm.
and it I think recolored,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful.
You have it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Such
a
a good-
giant. It's like, it looks like an old timey kind of a spell book or something. It's huge. It's like, pull it out
I
of this
would.
case.
Philly D says it's a Watchmen series worth
Yeah.
watching, and Mr. The House of Rad will tell you, heck yeah, it is, and also Dr. Brantley. I haven't gotten through it. I should get through it though.
I mean, if you're watching the movie, Dr. Brantley way in here, like if you're comparing it to the movie, it's different for sure.
Yeah,
It's out there, but I like it. It was because it was
it's
different.
set in the same universe.
Yeah.
And it's sort of an expansion of where we left this off. That stuff in Watchmen happened, and this is, 20, 30 years later or whatever it is. And it's cool. It's well done. And it is dark, like the
like the air you
book movie.
breathe.
That's correct.
Well, they got
Yes.
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to do the series soundtrack. So if you know their work and the things they've done, like The Social Network, and they did the the new Ninja Turtles animated film that came out, like that very dark, that creates that weird
atmosphere,
dark, gritty environment. So it's worth a watch. Again, if you're signing up for a different Watchmen experience, if you think it's going to be traditional to the books, there's elements of it, but it's definitely its own tale.
And great actors too.
Didn't she? I think she got nominated, or maybe have won for that.
I think it did. Yeah, said most HBO shows are pretty strange most of the time, but that's what makes them best. HBO always produces quality content. Hey, love it or hate it or whatever, you got to give them credit. HBO is going to spend some money and they're going to take it to the next level. They're not scared to throw out any kind of content.
Yep, 100%. That's one of my favorite. Like over the past 15 years, HBO is by far the best in terms of great television content. The Netflixes have competed, and recently the Hulus or whatever, but HBO has been doing it for quite a long time, and they still produce some really good stuff. So that's why I think House of the Dragon, you got to believe season 2 will be good. Will be good for sure. Anything else on Watchmen? It's funny, you believe in the Snyderverse again. Okay, just after we were doubting his end to the DC. To his credit, we talked about it wasn't completely his fault. But
no,
you're back on the Snyder train.
Hey, well, like I said again, anything to make sure that Alan Moore doesn't get another royalty check from it. Yeah, the poor guy. Like I said, if DC burns down, the DC office in Burbank burns down one day, we know it's probably Alan Moore that did it. They're making sure they keep that Watchmen imprint on TV. And I'm sure McFarlane is gonna drop some Watchmen action figures any day now. They're probably doing everything they can to make sure their rights never go back to my man.
I want to see this Watchmen Bible that Dr. Brantley owns. Is that something you're going to be selling on Whatnot soon?
Perhaps.
Okay. There's the
Philly
plug.
D. I agree,
There's
brother.
the plug. Hey, before we jump into our next topic of Pixelplast and Ink, thanks for tuning in. If you are watching live or watching at a later time, we do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time here on the Shadow Nose Network. So please just take 1 second to subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, a variety of different content, not just this show, but various other podcasts, videos from toy reviews to the world famous Toy Box Chronicles and a variety of other things. So check it out if you're a fan of pop culture. We like to talk about all things that hopefully all of you do as well. So without further ado, let's jump into our next topic, which is plastic. For toy collectors around the world, Target exclusives have been such a big thing. And recently, Target announced their Geeked Out Fest. So a lot of things dropped this week in the world of McFarlane toys. So, what's your thoughts on the stuff that dropped? I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to pull up the Target website so we can kind of see what dropped. We don't have to get into all the details, but it is quite clear. McFarlane's got the Target, and he's got the GameStop universe. He is like Galactus. He's got GameStop and Target all in two hands. So I don't see too many McFarlane exclusives at Walmart or Amazon, but
no.
A lot of the old series stuff, which is kind of cool. And then the new animated series Batmobile. So what's your thoughts of the first drop week 1?
Yeah, well, let me see. I'll just go over it. They had the multiverse Metallo, the multiverse Fire, They had the multiverse rookie and Mr. Bloom. I know that piqued Mr. Maddox's curiosity. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
The multiverse Joker and Punchline pack, which actually has we'll have an autograph card from George Jimenez, one of the artists on the comic book that that's inspired by. And then they had the Batman the Animated Series 112, not the 118 scale. This is the 112, which is made for 6-inch figures, some of its newer figures. And that one actually surprised me. I didn't think it was going to have lights on it as well. If you purchase the DC Direct version, it seems like it's just a less expensive version, and I won't use the other word like cheaper or something, but it's like the less expensive version. So you missed out on, because the DC Direct one was pretty pricey up in price. This one is, I think it's like $79. It's a gold label version that they have exclusively at Target. I think it's nice. I was sharing that with Mr. Maddox earlier in the day, is that unfortunately, as much as I would love to have that and add it to things, like Hasbro really murdered this whole entire summer season with the whole pushing off of like HasLabs and everything. And I know like the HasLab is going to be dropped in a couple of weeks for the G.I. Joe stuff. I've got to anticipate that because I know that's going to be at least 3 or 4 bills. It's one of those things I'm just going to have to leave it on the shelf and hope like later down in the year I can find it.
Well, see, the thing that I like is that you actually don't, because HasLab doesn't charge your card until it ships.
That's true, but no. They charge your card after the 30-day campaign. So in 30 days, that's dropping. And if
I thought you were tied in if it's funded, but they don't charge.
No. The minute the campaign's over, it drops, brother.
Yeah, because they're using the money to fund the project.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think they need to.
We're Hasbro. We don't have enough money to pay these people building stuff for us.
Yeah, I'll be honest. So I like that Joker, but we've talked about this before. Batman New 52 is probably one of my favorite runs of Batman, outside of one-offs like Hush, which was great. Dark Mirror, which was written by Scott Snyder, was one of the most fantastic Batman books ever. This figure right here, I want really bad. And I'm willing to go half if someone doesn't want, if someone just wants Batman. Because I'm not paying $70 to get Bloom, but Mr. Bloom is probably, outside of the Joker, is one of my all-time favorite Batman villains. And I think Scott Snyder destroyed on that. I mean, that's, if you haven't read the Mr. Bloom arc, that's you have to read it, because I don't know. I think he bundled him with this giant Batman just so he could get money for it, because there's not really a lot there. But Mr. Bloom is by far one of the most disturbed villains.
Very good villain.
He's fantastic.
He appeared in the Stranger Things series as well, I think.
He was originally from Last of Us.
But there's some great stuff.
You don't like the rookie figure? I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I get the price. The price.
No, I do.
$70, but it's cool.
Yeah, I do like it. It's like $69.
Yeah.
I think this would fit really great on Mr. Storm's back shelf with all the other Batman stuff. I have to say.
Yeah, I do.
I'll talk. Like I said, this might be one, since he's my my co-host on the other show. I might just have to go in just to see his happy face, have Mr. Bloom on the show. I can put up with a Batman that's regarded into the mix. So might have to do that for him.
If you're spending that much, it's worth the 10 extra bucks to get the Batmobile.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No.
The animated Batmobile is beautiful, though.
It is.
Is it $80 worth? I'm not so sure.
But, it's probably one of the better Batmobiles ever, but that's just
the DC Direct version of that same car with the same kind of light pattern, except for I think it came with like 2 figures. I believe it came with Batman and Robin in the day, and I think also the Bat Signal, if I'm not mistaken. Cool. I think that was well over $250, man.
This fire figure is epic.
I like the translucent stuff that he's been doing lately.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like this is a really well done figure.
Yeah, I give him credit.
That's one. I wouldn't be mad spending $24 on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it was a NECA figure, it'd be like $98.
And that's the same thing we've been talking about too. One of the major things is that I don't know what's going on. I know this event's a 6-week event, and that's great. But like, wow, like they just had like the haulathon that started off our whole year, and then we move into the lackluster May the 4th scenario that backfired, and then it's Yojo June, and then we're going into San Diego Comic-Con with a bunch of exclusives. Like, you know, I think that the companies, I understand it's about money, but they might want to think that the same kind of collectors are kind of collecting over multiple lines. They might want to have a conference where they go to one another, like, okay, man, why don't you take this quarter and then we'll take this quarter.
No, that ain't happening. You know, they'll just like everyone use all our licenses all at once and sell it ever.
Hey, don't worry. I know there's some concerns about Hasbro, but the Marvel Legends team's about to drop some fire this Tuesday.
And yeah, Marvel Legends too.
Watch.
Yeah.
So that the G.I. Joe folks, they better get their stuff together because Marvel has turned it up. Like you wait. Remember, we said it 18 months ago. There's some serious concerns about what the hell is happening at Marvel Toys, and now everyone's like, okay, they're setting the tone.
Exactly, they did, and that's what it kills me because I think right now between you, myself, and Mr. Maddox, we've got like 5 or 6 different pre-orders from Marvel Legends popping up. And Raven's Oath and everything. G.I. Joe's
Raven, don't get Mr. Storm started on G.I. Joe.
Not good.
The biggest
Yojo June doesn't matter. Leave your pocket July is about to show up, man.
Leave your pocket July, yeah. What was San Diego
Comic-Con, the thing though that came out? What was the go ahead, Chet, sorry.
Yeah. No, just saying like San Diego Comic-Con too, the one that's been quiet and they're doing like a whole thing at San Diego Comic-Con is Mattel Creations.
Yeah.
They're doing a whole segment called like Unlock Fandoms. And if Mattel hits, you know, Mattel hit out of nowhere with Street Sharks.
They did.
And they have some they acquired Tycho back in the day. They could hit us with some Dino Riders. You know what I'm saying? They could I think they acquired Amco, Amco, whatever it was, which did My Pet Monster. So
you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
it's something that's gonna hurt us.
Yeah, Mattel's gonna drop something that's gonna piss me off because I'm gonna have to buy it. But I mean, I'm excited to see what this drop is because it's not. I don't know what it is, but so far I can tell you that the McFarlane stuff hit pretty well.
They did.
The price points did not hit well, but it did. The rest of it did.
Well, it hit well for McFarlane, not for us, but it did.
Yeah.
And then also, I was seeing some too that had me. It seems like everybody's ramping up out here in Southern California, Costa Mesa. Tomorrow, Jada Toys is doing some huge car event. So they've kind of like taken over the Hot Wheels kind of scenario with their diecast, but they're doing a big event in Costa Mesa. And I'm like, wow! It seems like this is going to be the summer. Whatever's going to drop, it's going to drop, but it's going to be huge. Everyone's ramping up because I think they know they don't have to compete with Hollywood this year because Hollywood's just had such a lackluster moment of releasing. So it seems like they're like, it's going to be the toys of summer and it's going to hit a lot of our pocketbooks. But yeah, they had like this huge street event with a lot of their die-cast stuff. I know they've had Tyrese from the Fast and Furious show off some of that. I was looking at that like, well, wow, that's interesting. But the hits just keep on going from these toy companies, man.
If there's any doubt about the G.I. Joe potential HasLab or future, let me just share the screen to remind everybody when they do come correct. And Mr. Storm himself was talking about this, but I mean, whew,
that was one crazy unboxing, man.
Wow, that was an unboxing with
beauty. I mean, so just when you have any doubts, I mean, Marvel's HasLabs have been pretty damn good, right? But
you're right.
You know, G.I. Joe.
Now, I'll give credit to Marvel on one thing, that while the G.I. Joes equally have matched, but you know, when there's nothing like when you're sitting there, you're seeing the massive size of the Galactus box or even the other huge, the Sentinel, and you're like, wow, it's like, so they got some competition between the Marvel and Joe teams when it comes to that. So, but that unboxing that they did for the Dragonfly, it was like one of those times I had one of my G.I. Joe buddies Mr. Mo Collects Plastic. I love that dude. He's cool. But he was telling me like, like, man, you waiting for this thing? I said, that's one of those things where you want to take your stuff and knock it off the counter for when it comes. It's like, all right, now this is going to replace it. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Let's just remind everyone that copter got 24,000, almost 25,000 backers. We're 24 days away, so I'm not, but we're only at 5,000 backers here for the vintage
for the 3D printed Cantina.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it'll probably reach the 8,000, but will it exceed?
Who knows? See. But if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope and a check for half of this price, I will send you 3D printed versions of the Cantina.
Well, I've seen better 3D printed stuff.
We have seen better 3D
Toy Box Chronicles.
Yeah, we have.
Exactly.
Correct.
From the Tashi Station Emporium.
These,
if you want to see one of the best 6-inch Black Series, because they didn't do a lot of the stuff for the 6-inch Black Series so far. This is probably, I tell people all the time, it's something you have to witness in person, but just also we've got a video up right now, or you can watch Toy Box Chronicles.
What's up, Darth Butcher?
What's going on, sir? It is the greatest, and I will use this term, the greatest playset ever designed. If you have not seen it, go to the channel, watch it out, go over to the Tashi Station Emporium, see it for yourself. We were talking on Wednesday's show that he said he's going to make those files available. If he does, there's going to be an Emperor room printed in damn near almost everybody's house I know here. Like I said, again, I'm just going to get rid of my dining room table.
My wife's kicking me out of the house.
Yeah, I got told today that I'm cut off from buying when she walked in and saw my Galactus box. I was like, what is that? And then I was on Whatnot, and she's like, "Are you also buying stuff on Whatnot?" And I was like, "Nope." And as she's walking out, I was like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Well, if you're at the end
can't
of the day,
put a Planet Eater inside a small box. Okay, so
yeah, I know that's
jokes
on me.
Like, Darth Moocher, I agree. I think it's getting I mean, I get there's 24 days, right? But isn't usually the trend, especially with the vintage collectors,
over half.
It shoots up like right away, like the first 48 hours.
Yep.
And it's been dragging along to get funded.
But they do kind of kick in. I know the last 24 hours of most of the Have Lab programs that people didn't think were going to go through, that's also the surge time, because I think people want to see if it's going to get funded, if it's close to getting funded before they go all into it. So,
which is a problem because then there's little time to reach stretch goals. And really, if you're coming up to like the last day and they realize no one hit the stretch goal, it's just gonna drop the bottom.
But you know what they did? Remember that time we were talking about that, Jet, when they did the international backings, because a couple of those programs, it didn't look like they were going to make it towards the end, and then they dropped 10,000 different backers. Where this came from, because they put in all of the international backing at the same time. So who knows? Look, 8,000's not really a high threshold. If it's going to make it, we'll probably see it towards the end, because I think people right now are just, again, I think it's, if you're into Star Wars, I think a lot of people have their up and downs at the moment, but towards the end of that program, I got a feeling that I think people do want there's a dedicated fan base that wants that Cantina, but I don't know if that deluxe version is going to do anything for it.
I wonder, the only thing, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not worth it if it doesn't get all of the different tiers of funding. Because if you don't get all those extra characters and stuff, that's not worth $400 right now.
The Galactus one wouldn't have been great if you didn't get the full three tier. I mean, it would have still been cool, but like the additional figures
and the Doom head
and the Doom head.
Yeah. Well, they did say that the one good thing about this HasLab that's completely different than the rest. Normally, if the tiers weren't met, you didn't get those extra characters. They said they were never making it. That's the whole thing with the Engine of Vengeance. You're not going to get to see the Goblin Queen or Robbie Reyes or any of those made. But they did say that I guess certain figures towards the tail end, they're going to have different packaging and they will be re-released. So that's different, because I think they had a problem with thinking that is it going to pass or it is not. So let's make sure that some of these figures that people did want, they have an opportunity to get it if the campaign doesn't quite get to the last final tiers. I think they think they're making 8,000, but they've got some high, lofty goals towards the end. I think it went up to, if I'm not mistaken, anywhere between 12 to 17,000. And I was like, I don't know if it's hitting that.
I do think the leak hurt it. I think the leak came
Yes.
out and there was a lot of negativity. And then when it
Mhm.
came out that it was the official leak, I think there were, if it didn't leak, I do think that maybe it would have done better. There probably would have
Mhm.
still been some disappointment, but it's never great when there's bad press right away. And then 2
Mhm.
weeks later, you announce the thing that people kind of were a bit upset about. So,
Yeah,
um,
taking the backers, and
yeah,
yeah, I
base
think
figure.
so. Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
everyone wants that the most
Bartender?
sought after figure, the bartender.
Sisters. There were some
Yes.
They're cool
dumb
figures. Those are
characters.
cool. Like I think that if they sold them independently, that would be kind of a cool thing. But
Yeah.
hey, stay tuned to the channel this week coming because I do expect Marvel to release some cool stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
toy
Mhm.
collectors, as you can see, Marvel with some sprinkles of DC. And big kudos to McFarlane, man. I know sometimes the figures are not all great, but there's some really cool stuff coming out too. But before we jump into our last topic of the evening, centered around ink. Thanks for tuning in every 7 p.m. Pacific time here on the Shadow Nose Network. This is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. We invite you to subscribe, like, comment. We appreciate the support. Check the channel, tons of podcasts, videos, content for your viewing pleasure. All it takes is 1 second to click the button on your mobile device or your PC. So it is now time for Ink, and we're going to talk about TMDNT. So, in the world of comic books, again, the struggle to sell things is definitely an opportunity, but not the case for IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Number one, this retro theme, the 80s properties, Turtles continue to be on fire. How many have they sold thus far, Mr. Storm?
Well, the final cutoff was today, but they're estimating 300,000, and
That
that kicks up from the Thundercats, which through Dynamite they had done early in the year. They had at one moment they had the sales of the year. They had 170 for Thundercats #1, and that had like 4 covers. And then I haven't heard any multiple covers for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 they're launching, but the 300K is like that was like back in the days what the X-Men were averaging, on a bad month. But this is still the better sales that we've seen here because I think McFarlane needed to have like 16 versions of a copy just to break. I think it was like 200,000,
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know if it's the 80s properties or what's going on, but for some strange reason, like, some of these smaller companies are hitting massive successes with even Skybound with the Energon universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe. They're killing Marvel and DC. And I know the Turtles are big, but 300,000 copies, that's like Eastman and Laird back in the day rolling. Like,
Yeah.
that's actually pretty good, man. I'm glad that this is happening.
You also like Joelle Jones is doing the art. She said
Yes, true.
like so.
Mhm. And was it Jason Aaron's from
Mhm.
a very good writer from the days of Marvel, and he's done some independent stuff. He's doing they're taking some of these smaller companies are taking this. They're like taking the gauntlet, and they're basically giving dual slaps to people with their white gloves because they're bringing big name talent on some of this stuff, and it's really paying off. And again, I don't know if it's the 80s or is it just the talent is just writing these characters in better ways? Because you've got, IDW, who, let's be honest, isn't like on the level where they do a lot of good stuff. They have more bad things than good, but they've done Turtles right.
Well, it's not just nostalgia. I think Gen X is about the only generation that still has any money in the bank. So, they're the only ones buying stuff now.
Yeah, true.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I mean, I think they've done an incredible job and continue to make TMNT a franchise popular amongst the kids. But I think to your point, Dr. Brantley, is that the people that do have the money remember the Turtles from the late 80s, early 90s, and continue to follow along. And so revisiting stories, those characters, if they're done really well, because there's definitely been versions of the Turtles in print and media form that have not been great. But I think recently they have done it really well, including the action figure line in some capacity, not the recent film stuff, but the repops of some of the older classic figures. TMNT will, will all long be gone, and that thing will still be rocking along with Star Wars and Transformers. And I'm all about it, man. I love it. I love that I can tell my 3-year-old daughter about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She's telling me who's the red and the orange one is, because that's when I was a kid. The same thing, man. The money cost it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, but you know what though? Like sometimes the toys and the comic books are worth it.
Well, look, if anything happens, Chet can get inside that Galactus box. He's got a nice little home, a couple levels, I think. So
yeah, exactly.
Hey, ramen noodles taste a hell of a lot better when you're staring down some badass toys in the middle of the night. That's what I have to say.
I can tell you thanks to the Marvel Legends team and that I've been living on that for the last several weeks. So yes, it's mighty good when you can look at some his tanks and some other stuff, and especially whenever I tune into my good Toy Box Chronicle partners room and everything, I feel good because I'm like, I know our money's well spent.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Mr. Maddox? Did you do the final cutoff for the TMNT #1 yourself?
I was told I did, but I don't trust it. But I'm already so I think it's very clear I have a unhealthy obsession of Scotty Young artwork, and so I'll have an issue 1 regardless.
To interrupt you, he purchased another damn statue today from Scotty.
Oh jeez. Oh.
I did, yeah. I was on Whatnot, and this lady's doing a quick scan of just Marvel stuff, and I was like, "Wait, go back. What was that purple thing?" And it was Nightcrawler, but they were doing half off, so I got Nightcrawler for $11.
Oh, that's actually dope, man. Yeah, that's
dope.
Giant figure. Yeah,
nice.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's doing issue #1 for them, but it's on his website exclusively. So if you do like Scotty Young, you gotta sign up for Stupid Fresh Mess, which is his newsletter. Okay. But he's doing a CGC series run of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that he drew. So that's the #1 thing I'm the most worried about getting. And the last time I was this worried about getting it, I think I spent like $300 on one of them just because it was like, oh, there's only 3,000 made. Well, I got to be one of them.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that was the first DC book that Scotty Young got to draw. That was legit. That was Batman, and I have it right over here.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Look, hey, if you can put excitement back into the comic, which he's a great writer. Joel Jones is a great artist. Look, that's most of the storytelling. Like if not all of it, right? Is the artist good? Is the writing good? If it is, and they work, the only thing that can mess it up is an inker.
Yeah. Well, like we said on the show, the new segment is the homework kids outside down there. Everybody pick up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1. Let's see if we can push that to 350,000. But that's the homework for the Pixel Plastic Ink this week and everything. Everybody get to your comic stores and make sure you put in that orders or tell the people you want TMNT #1.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, we are almost at time here for wrapping up another episode. And before we do, a special shout out to sponsors and also affiliates. Again, for those people who are interested in purchasing toys, you're collectors, you find great deals throughout the internet universe, or you go into the local mom and pops. But if you're looking for something that is easy, clickable pre-orders, go to Entertainment Earth and use our link down here at the video. You get 10% off in-stock items and free ship over $75. So why not? If you're going to make the purchase, use the link. It helps us, the channel, grow. And speaking of mom and pops, as always, Mr. Storm, a special kudos and shout out to our OG sponsor.
Again, like I used to tell people from day one, they had faith in us, and I give them credit all the time. Toys versus Game, Wilmington, California. His wife is a beautiful lady. Tony is a great guy. When you walk into the store, it's just like walking into like an old school toy store. They're always there. It's always one of the situations where you feel like you're appreciated. That's what the mom and pops do. I know that Mr. Maddox and I said that one of our mom and pops that we had, that we were really kind of pushing, kind of closed doors. So every dollar counts when you go to those stores. Yep. So in Wilmington, Toys versus Games, tell them that the Pixel Plastic Ink crew sent you. Tony will put a smile on his face when he sees you. He may even give you a discount. I'm not, don't guarantee that scenario, but it might happen.
Awesome. Well, as always, please drop a subscribe, a like. Lots of upcoming features. Again, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, the Toy Box Chronicles featuring Mr. Storm and Mr. Maddox, and sometimes special guests talking about all things toys, universe, and several other things from the Shadow himself, recapping some really great moments in wrestling, some wrestling news, along with the Tech Master, some new content and videos that are coming very soon. So please check the channel. We also have lots of recaps. Mr. Storm went to the G.I. Joe SoCal convention recently, and now Robo Toy Fest. So a recap will be hitting the channel as well. So a lot of cool content. So stay tuned. We post live videos and recorded videos every week. Did I miss anything, gentlemen, in terms of the video content?
Yeah, you didn't really, but I will just say I'm excited to announce that tomorrow we will be publishing the first of hopefully many joystick junkies, and we'll see what people think. It's all based on video games, what's happening in the video game industry. We talked about IGN Live and the Microsoft showcase. Meeks, it's his initiation of joining the Shadow Nose Network. He's coming on as our resident video game person. So him and I have been into video games our entire life. So really excited about it. It's the first one, so go easy on us, but it'll end up being the only gaming podcast you need to listen to. So remember that.
And awesome. On another note, we had a guest on Wednesday, and we've been just going back and forth, and that was Dark Moocher, which was very fantastic. Love the dude. We decided to work on a couple of things. He actually has some YouTube channels, and what we're going to do is we're going to share partnerships on certain things. Their guests will be over here from their shows. We may pop over there. And we're going to have a lineup of all the shows on the network. So Wednesday, when they say Toy Box Chronicles, well, it actually starts off a little different from the Sorlek Digest crew. You're going to have the Fallen Fett at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Our Toy Box Chronicles here on the Shadow Nose Network at 7 p.m. And then the Starlight Digest podcast on their channel at 8 p.m. So on Wednesday, you've got a place to go. They've got some shows on Monday. They've got the Toy Chest, and they've got a couple other rotating things to start at 5:30. And then, of course, on Fridays, it's us. So we're going to have that on our Instagram. It's going to be on their Instagram. We'll have some details down in the description. So that's going to be something that's definitely going to be popping up more and more. We're discussing certain things possibly for San Diego Comic-Con that we may all do together. So there's just a bunch of stuff. We've got definitely some stuff work in the plan. So we're glad everybody's tuning in.
Well, amazing stuff. Yep. Check the channels, man. I love great collaboration, cool content, different content. So worth the while to check out each other's videos. And hey, man, we talk about all the cool, fun stuff. I'm just afraid, man, as we get introduced to more folks that sell cool stuff, talk about cool stuff, the pocket books are getting thinner and thinner, and I'm gonna run out of room, and I'll be in the street with my toys, and I can't.
I got a garage. So. Come on down.
Oh, all right, good. Move my family in. Do you have room for the Sentinel?
Yep, I do.
It's like, honey, we don't need this wall, right?
I have so much room that I got rid of a bunch of stuff and bought proper shelving now. So
okay. I love it. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week at the same time on the Shadow Nose Network. Have a great rest of your Friday and weekend. See you later.